rated it yet on Goodreads, but I think I finally know what I want to rate this book. Or do I? Hello and welcome to my little book nook area. I thought I would make a video tonight just to show you what I read this month. I had a fantastic reading month, an absolutely fantastic reading month. I've loved the majority of the books that I read this month. I'm very excited to go through them with you. Ooh, I just created a little scent with the essential oils that I have with my new diffuser, and I think I'm liking it a lot. Right now it is October 30th. It is Sunday, October 30th. As of today, I have officially read 7 full books. There are 3 books that I have not 100% finished and 1 that I think I'm just gonna DNF, but we will talk about all that today. And I think I'm gonna start with the book that I read first this month. Alrighty, so the first book that I read this month was Bunny. This is by Mona Awad. This has been getting a lot of traction, I feel like, recently, or I've just been seeing a lot of people reading this. I rated this a 4 out of 5 stars, even though I still don't 100% know how I feel about this book. We follow Samantha. It's set in like a college. We basically follow this group of girls. They all call themselves Bunny. Samantha and her best friend Ava, they don't really like the bunnies. They're not big fans of the bunnies, or at least Ava seems so. And really, to me, it seems as though Samantha is kind of fascinated by the bunny. Samantha finds herself invited to their coveted smut salon. The first encounter that they have, some weird things happen that make Samantha very confused. She's not very sure kind of what's going on. It makes her even more intrigued by the bunnies, and next thing you know, she finds herself hanging out with them again and again and again, and then she becomes a part of them. We just find out some weird, creepy things about these girls, and I don't know, the reason why I rated it 4 out of 5 stars is because even though it was such a bizarre read, I found myself just eating it up. Even though the ending fell short for me, I don't know, I just think that there's so many different ways that you can interpret the ending of the book. I don't want to give it away, but it's like, just read this book. Read this book if you're looking for a bizarre read. There are some very heavy sort of topics, I guess, that are discussed in this, so do check the trigger warnings. I liked it a lot, and it still has me a little bit perplexed. The next book I read this month was the Ex Hex. This is by Erin Sterling. I rated this also a 4 out of 5 stars. I liked this book a lot, like a lot. I feel like sometimes whenever I read books, I don't know, it was almost as if I could basically see myself watching this as if it was a Netflix sitcom. So we follow Vivian Jones, but they call her Vivi. She was in love with this guy named Reese Penhollow, and he kind of like breaks her heart, and she ends up casting a hex on him. Reese comes back home to like the town that they live in, and all of these weird things start to happen, and they have to basically figure out why. I've been seeing that people either love or hate it. I know my friend Alexis, she also read this book this month. She, I think, rated it like 3 out of 5 stars. So she wasn't a huge fan of it, but I really did thoroughly enjoy it. But with that being said, I did rate this again a 4 out of 5 stars. I did like this, and it did give me all like the spooky vibes that I wanted to, but it was also like spicy, and I liked like the chemistry between Reese and Vivian. And I also have the kiss curse, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get to that. Maybe I'll just save it for next year. Okay, the next book I read this month was Icebreaker. This is by Hannah Grace. I freaking love this book. I rated it 5 out of 5 stars. I binged the heck out of this book. I think I read it, let's see how fast I read it. I read it in 3 days. It is over 400 pages, well, at least this particular copy. I did not read it physically. I did read it on Kindle Unlimited, and I loved it so much that I needed to get the physical copy. This has spice, it has like banter, it has friendships, it has character development, it has sports. I love that it takes place in California. They talk about going to San Diego, and I don't know, I absolutely loved the pants off this book. From enemies to lovers, Nate is the captain of the hockey team, and Anastasia is like a figure skater, and she also has a partner named Erin. Are like really competitive skaters together. There is something that happens where like a rival team ruins their ice rink, so it makes it impossible for their ice rink to like stay cold and stay icy. They only have 1 ice rink instead of 2 now, and so they have to share the ice rink. This is one of the biggest books that I've read in a minute since I read Ninth House, and I could not put it down. I genuinely could not put it down. The fact that it's going to be a whole series, it literally says UCMH series, I am so stoked. There's another book that I think is coming out in January by her. That sounds absolutely phenomenal. I can't wait to read it. I can't wait to buy it, pre-order it, whatever I need to do to get that in my hands. Icebreaker, 5 out of 5. Absolutely love this read so much. Okay, the next book that I finished, because it's not the next book that I picked up, but this is the next book that I finished, was It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. I did do a reading vlog on this book. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I think that it gave me a lot of closure. I know that some people have been saying that they didn't need the extra closure, that they were fine with how the way that It Ends With Us ended. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. We follow Lily, Atlas, and Emerson essentially in their lives after the aftermath of It Ends With Us. What I loved most about this book is that it gave me more than just Lily and Atlas, and that's something that I talked about in my reading vlog. There is so much more than just the continuation of Lily and Atlas's relationship, and I appreciated it so much. It deals with domestic violence, it deals with child abuse, it deals with like dealing with life after leaving an abusive relationship, and also still being connected with an abusive relationship, especially through having a kid with someone who was your abuser. The connections that we see with Atlas, like we get so much more of Atlas and his story. I appreciated that so much. This is the second book that I annotated this month. I will show you the first one, because the first one that I annotated this month is the read that I picked up after Icebreaker. This next book is another 5-star read for me. I loved this book, and I've been seeing more people picking it up, which makes me so happy. The Undertaking of Hart and Mercy. I rated this 5 out of 5 stars. It took me longer to read. I wanted to try and see what it would be like to annotate a book, if that was something that I would like, and it just so happened that it happened to be this beautiful book right here. The Undertaking of Hart and Mercy is probably one of my favorite books of all time, period. It was funny, it was light, it dealt with deep topics, it didn't glance over anything too lightly, but didn't dive into anything too deeply that it didn't need to. Mercy Birdsall is the daughter of the Undertaker of the town. Hart Ralston is a marshal, and his job is to capture drudges, which are, I kind of pictured them like those people from Harry Potter. I forget their names. Hart basically is in charge of going to Tanria, which is like the other world. So like basically live in like a world like this, but then there's like a portal they can go through to get to Tanria, which is where the drudges are. Now that I'm trying to explain it, I'm not sure 100% get it, but while I was reading it, I understood it. This isn't enemies to lovers. Hart brings Mercy a dead drudge, and the whole point is that Mercy's supposed to do her undertaking duties. So he brings her a body one day, and we get this glimpse of like, they don't really like each other. He drops off the body, and he's not feeling that great. He's not having a good day. He's feeling kind of lonely, and next thing you know, he's like, you know what, I'm gonna write a letter. So he ends up writing a letter to just addresses it to a friend, and writes basically how he's feeling. The letter magically ends up in Mercy's hands, but Mercy doesn't know that it's Hart's writing and that it's Hart that's writing these letters. But Mercy feels so also in her own life lost and trapped and not sure what's going on, not feeling the best, and so she ends up feeling compelled to write back to her anonymous pen pal. And next thing you know, they're writing these letters back and forth to each other, and little do they know that they're meeting each other and seeing each other in their daily lives as Hart is bringing Mercy the bodies, doing their job as normal. But by the end of the book, we not only learn so much about Hart as an individual, about Mercy as an individual, especially Hart. There's like a lot about Hart that you have to know about the end, about Mercy as an individual, about Mercy's family, about what's going on. Like, there's just a lot of depth. There's a lot of things going on in here that even though we have this big story of like the letters, we just fall in love with like the atmosphere. I tabbed the heck out of it. All the purple tabs are Hart and Mercy together, and then like my other tabs are clear so you can't really see them, but they are colored on the inside, which I really like. I really like that a lot, that it's clear. The only thing that I can compare this to in terms of how much I loved this was how much I loved The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This book is like right there with it. So cute. It's like pink, blue, pink, blue, pink. Super cute. The next book that I read this month was My Best Friend's Exorcism. This is by Grady Hendrix. This is not my first Grady Hendrix read. I also once read the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. That book I did rate 4 out of 5 stars. This book I rated like 2.5 stars on Goodreads. I did leave it as a 3-star. I like this book. I like the themes that are presented in this book of friendship. This book kept me on my toes, and it even sort of spooked me a little bit with the writing, and I did enjoy Grady Hendrix' writing style. But what I did not enjoy was the representation of Black characters in this book. It was like, why was it necessary to only reference Black characters in the way that they are? I've heard people make a similar comment about Grady Hendrix books before, specifically the last one I read, the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I did not get that vibe in that book. I felt so uncomfortable sometimes in this book that me as especially as a mixed girl, I just could not get past that. Despite liking the storyline itself, I just couldn't overlook how many times I felt so uncomfortable. Like, there was a couple times where I was like, okay, maybe I get past this, maybe it's just something, you know, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. But once I'm starting to count 5, 6, 7, 8 times in my head that I'm starting to feel uncomfortable about this particular thing, I think it's kind of just like not really rubbing me the right way. So I would recommend this book to people. I would. It is a good story, and not many people would feel uncomfortable about the way that Black characters are written, and I don't ever want to make anybody feel that they should feel a way about it unless they personally feel inclined to. But for me, I just wasn't a huge fan, and that's something that I'm not afraid to voice. Okay, my camera died, so hopefully the angle's not too different. In a little bit more, like that. So the last book that I read this month, or at least fully read, because I am still currently reading a couple books. Let me wait until all these cops go by, because I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing the most. Okay, finally they stopped. This book, The Dead Romantics. Now, I haven't rated it yet on Goodreads, but I think I finally know what I want to rate this book. Or do I? I want to give it 5 stars, and I'll explain why. I am just now getting back into reading, so there are a lot of tropes, there are a lot of books that I haven't familiarized myself with yet, and I think that I'm still getting a gauge of what I like to rate particular books. What my spectrum is, what my scale is like. Now, I've read some amazing books, not only this month, but in the month of September. And this book, I feel like it just deals with grief in a way that I haven't seen in a book before. And maybe it's just because it has to deal with like grief of a family member. This main character does lose her dad, and it's tough. Now, that's not the only reason why I want to give this 5 stars. Another reason why I want to give this book 5 stars is because it is so like modern. So many of the relationships in the book are queer relationships. Is that proper to say that? I've never read a book that references a character as they or uses the pronoun they And this book does, and I think it sort of even educated me on how to properly use they as a pronoun. And it was like different, and like my brain wasn't used to it, but I think that I eventually got used to it, conformed to it, and ended up liking that representation that much more, as even as someone that like isn't super familiar. It was just very interesting, and I really liked that. I liked it a lot. There's also family, dealing with family, and like how the family was grieving with the death and how they were able to grieve together. And love story, it's a little bit interesting. It's a little bit, I don't want to say bizarre, but it is a little bit, is outlandish a better word? I mean, those are both pretty like out there words. It was a little bit hard to wrap my head around, but I think the whole idea behind it was cute. I do want to rate this 5 out of 5 stars. Loved it. I would recommend it. And I think that it was interesting that I read a book about an Undertaker's daughter after reading The Undertaking of Hart and Mercy, because there were a lot of parallels in the book, a lot of things that I read about in The Undertaking of Hart and Mercy that I also read about in The Dead Romantics. I think it was just like nice to see those parallels, not be like confused when references were brought up, like embalming, or I don't even know other different words. But yeah, I like this book a lot. So that was the last book that I fully read this month. But there are a couple books that I am currently reading that I guess I would talk about simply because why not? Her Body and Other Parties. This is by Carmen Maria Machado. I definitely have plans to finish this month. This is a collection of her short stories. I've only gotten through, I think, 3 short stories, and they are heavy, like spookier, I don't want to say spooky, but like darker reads. My whole plan with this was to read it in between different reads in order to just kind of like keep my reading palette cleansed. They are heavy reads, like they talk about some dark subjects. I think that especially the way that it's written so eloquently that I feel like sometimes you need to like sit down and kind of be ready to digest what's going on. The next book that I have right now is The Seep. This is by Chana Porter. I also have plans to finish this. I mean, it's Halloween weekend. I'm out. This is about a psychedelic alien invasion. It's like an alien invasion through drugs. I don't even know how to explain it. Trina and Diba are a couple, lesbian couple, that are experiencing the Seep. And Trina is not a huge fan of the Seep, but Diba is absolutely enthralled by the Seep. And the Seep basically allows you to like have whatever you want, but like you're basically a subject to the aliens who provide it. Like it's not a good thing. It's almost like it's like social media. It's like good and bad at the same time. The last book that I'm currently reading is The Midnight Club. This is by Christopher Pike. This is also another short read. This is going to be a Netflix show or movie. I'm not sure. One of those two. It does say coming to Netflix up here. And I did find this book on the 2022 books to TV table at Barnes & Noble. I'm currently getting through a chunky chapter right now, like an over 30-page chapter in this tiny little book. So far, it's just setting up the premise of the Midnight Club. It takes place in the Rodham House, and the Rodham House is a hospice for young teenagers. All of the kids in the book are 18 except for one who's 19. And the Midnight Club is a group of these teens with terminal illnesses. They meet every night at midnight and they share stories. They just shared their first story and they just set up the scene of them meeting together. That is the last book that I am currently reading and / will read in the month of October. Alright, those are all the books. I did say that there are a couple books that I DNF'd, or one book that I DNF'd, and that was Hooked. I am going to DNF that book right now. That is by Emily McIntire. I am just not in the mood for that kind of book right now. It is very in your face, instantly smutty with like no depth. Not in the mood. Not in the mood for one of those types of books right now. I appreciate you for listening to me rant on about the 7, 8, 9-ish books or so that I read this month. I've had, like I said, an amazing reading month. This is probably the most books that I've read in a month in a very long time. I have some really fun reading plans next month. Branch off into books that are not only out of my comfort zone, but just like introducing me to new authors, new tropes, new themes, and it makes me very, very excited. It is getting to that time. It is 10 o'clock on the dot right now. I am going to head out. I'm gonna be a little devil. As you can see, here's my outfit going on right now. I gotta get my tail on. That being said, I appreciate you so much for watching this video. I hope that you subscribe and stick around for more bookish content on my channel. I am PaperbackGirly, and I will see you in my next paperback video. I'm just kidding. Alright, y'all. See you soon. Peace. Oh, and happy Halloween.
Every day was every day up. Every day patches the note up. Oh God, you should mention this, they kill. No, I like to still I want my 28 up.